Come on, man. France football, what are we doing? What are we doing? Now we have to be honest with ourselves, guys. What are we doing? Anyway, guys, welcome back to Real Talk, uh, growing podcast, favorite podcast of every single Real Madrid or football fan. You should definitely be subscribed, following, listening to this episode. Thank you for listening, watching, viewing, wherever you are. Please make sure you like the video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, follow the channel, leave your comments and thoughts down below. Not about this video, but about this 30 minutes shortlist. What are your guys' thoughts? Because of course, just from the title, you guys can tell. Nah, this is a joke, man. This is a joke. So basically, what this video is about, I'm gonna be reviewing the Ballon d'Or 30-man shortlist as placed, not the shortlist that comes out, but the placements in the Ballon d'Or. For those of you who maybe have been living under a rock, the Ballon d'Or ceremony took place just yesterday, and it was quite eventful. Quite eventful. And of course, the main, the pinnacle moment, the ultimate moment everyone waits for happened. The Ballon d'Or, men's Ballon d'Or ceremony, the most, coveted and awaited individual trophy in football. And for me, you know, like I always tell people, is with the winner, I don't think there's been ever a singular time you've won the Ballon d'Or and didn't have even the slightest credit for it. You didn't have the merits for it. I don't think we've had a winner who, didn't deserve to win the Ballon d'Or. So I think for that reason, I'm okay with who won. I'll be honest, I'm okay with who won. I wanted that person to win. I'm happy he won, and we'll get to it later. But sometimes they get a little bit excited, these guys. They tend to, and I've noticed this, is that when you have the winning person having a lot of, controversy, a lot of back and forth of who's going to win, and it's very, very, very not obvious who's going to win, France will get a little bit excited. I think they try to, see just how much we're focused on the winner, as much, not as much as the placements of the 30. Because now I'm starting to believe they don't really care where they place the 30 men on that list. They really just care about, do we get the winner correctly? So they say they care, and to a degree they do care about the 30 people they put in the shortlist. Then they care about who they're going to give the winning, the winning position, the award, the Ballon d'Or to. But sometimes they don't really care about, fitting every single person of the 30-man shortlist in their right positions. Because what is this? So how this is going to work, when the 30 minutes shortlist came out the first time, just immediately when it came out, and I made that video talking about some people who I didn't even believe should be on that 30 minute shortlist, which you guys can go listen to on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Real Talk. I immediately after I finished that episode, I sat down and I wrote down my list of how the Ballon d'Or should go, my opinion on where everyone should be placed. And keep in mind, it's my opinion, so even I, to be honest, don't have, the most perfect list. I don't think anyone can generate the perfect list. Maybe if you ask some AI like ChatGPT, it can give you like a stat for stat, criteria matching placements. But I feel like if you have eyeballs that are connected to your eye sockets, and you can like visually watch or even hear a football match, and you have done that from the span of June 2024 up in June 2024, I think, up into August 2024 up into June 2025 for this season. If you can watch football for this season, I don't think you have a list that's completely different from another person who claims to watch football. There'll be at least one or two similarities. Maybe even like you can have the same top 10, you can have the same top 3, you can have the same top 4, you can have the same people from 30th all the way to 15th even, because there's just general things, there's just general positions that you get right. And we're going to be discussing that. So I sat down and I made my 30-man shot list just purely after, I think, no, this actually, yeah, this was At the point when they released the shortlist, this was after the Club World Cup had already happened and Chelsea won. And boy, oh boy, am I going to talk about that competition later in this episode. So I made mine, and what we're going to be doing is reviewing the actual placements that France Football gave these players in the 30 men's shortlist ranking, and then we're going to go over mine, and I'm going to give my thoughts if whether I think they hit it better than I did, or maybe I was being a little bit biased, or maybe I was being wrong, or if they were being wrong. And just to give you guys a little preview, not even trying to spoil the episode, but giving you a little preview, I genuinely believe that there are a lot of those situations where they didn't hit the nail on the head. Actually, they like full on just hit themselves in the hand with the hammer and then threw the nail away, because what were some of these placements? So anyway, I'm going to be going from 30 all the way into the first position, who of course you guys, for those of you who don't know, but it's Ousmane Dembele. He won the Ballon d'Or. I'll talk about that later. So let's just get straight into it. Let's not waste any time. In 30th, France Football, of the period of the whole season from, I'm correcting myself, it was from, I think, August to August, because that's Club World Cup finishing, to the start of the season. The first games you have in August, September. From that period, according to their criteria, which if I can just, you know what, give me a little bit of time, guys. Let me just try and search up the criteria that they say they use to vote for this Ballon d'Or. Because one thing I want you guys to know is this is the criteria they use, oh and well, for the winner. But I also use it to a slight degree on how I place my players, because everyone in the 30 men's shortlist, so by virtue for me of you being in the 30 men's shortlist, you have a 29th to 0 space away from winning the Ballon d'Or. So you are validly being counted on these criteria, plus the season you had. I don't know if you guys understand what I mean. I mean, I judge everyone based on the criteria they will judge on who deserves to win it, because if you're on the 30 short list, it's not like they've already said these are our top 10, but everyone is in the 30. No, they've just put the 30. So if they wanted, they could have put Declan Rice, for example, as the winner. So I judge everyone in your placement based on the criteria, because that is what can give you, being in the 30 men's short list, a chance at winning the Ballon d'Or. So the criteria they said is the 2025 Ballon d'Or is awarded based on these three main criteria: individual performances, decisive and impressive character, team performances and achievements, and class and fair play. I won't like dwell on it for every player and say, no, this guy did this, but I just want you guys to hear those. Those were the criteria. Those are the things they use to judge the winner of the Ballon d'Or. So the best player in the world is determined by who fits that criteria. And in my opinion, the 30 men you've said are the 30 best players of this last season in, football, are judged on that criteria too. I think it only goes one-on-one. It's one for one. So firstly, they put Michael Olise, as you can see on screen, in the 30th position. For those of you who are listening, Michael Olise 30th. Man, what are we doing? Let's be honest. What are we doing? This was a disgrace. This genuinely, for me, you're not convincing me otherwise. This was a disgrace. And I'm not even going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm not even one of those people who actually saw the hype for Michael Olise. I was actually anti Michael Olise when people were using him to drop down Lamine Yamal, talking about his stats and what. But just because I thought you guys are overhyping him in terms of, saying Yamal doesn't deserve it because even Olise did this, doesn't mean that I think Olise had a bad season. And you cannot tell me he was 30th. You cannot tell me of the 30 men they looked at and they, scrutinized on that list of 30 men, they put Michael Olise at 30th. That just doesn't make sense. Personally, in my list, I had Michael Olise at 16th. And I'm not even taking any slack for that. I feel like that's a good placement for him. I feel like he did well. It could be lower. I understand. It could be lower because maybe some of the people I put above him and below him, you guys might put above him or below him. But for me, I think putting him as dead last is just insane. This guy had, I think, the top assisting record in the Bundesliga this season. Man, you just can't, man. You can't tell me that Michael Olise is 30th. And then where they shit themselves in the foot for me is the guy who follows immediately after in Florian Wirtz. What is this guy doing here? I'll be honest, I'm not even being harsh, but genuinely, I had this guy in 30th. I had him dead last because just like some of the other players I'll discuss, I'm just being honest. You can tell me I'm being a little bit biased, but this guy last season, not the, and most people might think we're talking about the 2023-24 season. No, we're talking about 24-25 last season. This guy last season, you cannot have him being above Michael Olise. They tried to get away with it by saying no because they're the bottom two, so it's not like we've put him in 20th or 18th or like 13th, but no, still it matters. For me, it matters no matter what you're saying. Even if somebody has a crappy season, I cannot say that this guy is 99th and this guy's 100th, because you're still, by putting this, saying that he had a better season in your eyes than Michael Olise, which is just not true. Because one of the things, not even to be a little bit meta, but one of the things that they both have in common last season is they both played in the same league. And give or take, you can say what you want about Bayern already having dominance in there. It's not like Bayern Munich won the league and Olise did nothing for them. He did more. He was better than Florian Wirtz. For me, Wirtz, I had him in 30th. Not because I hate him, I just didn't think, first of all, he deserved to be on this list. And then I just also, with some of the players, and I'll mention this point a lot, I'm not giving you guys a warning, I'm going to mention this point a lot. You cannot have Florian Wirtz on this list and not have the likes of someone like, Federico Valverde. That's just my honest opinion. And I think that it's very, it's a stick in the mud for Valverde. He really got done, bro. Like, you cannot tell me Wirtz was better than Valverde. And if you want to convince me that, good for you. You can try your best, but I'm just not seeing it. That's why I had him in 30th. I don't know what he's doing in 29th. 28th, we had Mr. Virgil van Dijk. This is one of the ones I'm saying, like, because they know that there's going to be a lot of disparity from number 1 to 5, they just play around with everyone else and then just think they can get away with it, because you cannot genuinely have Virgil van Dijk at 28th. I know there's the attacking bias. Let's be honest, it's always there. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be the attacking bias. But genuinely, in my eyes, I had Virgil van Dijk. Where did I have Van Dijk? I had Van Dijk at 13th. And you can chat to me if you want. You can tell me, now maybe I'm just like heavy on that Van Dijk glaze, but genuinely, I believe this guy was doing the opposite. Not good to bad. I mean, attacking to defending. He was the opposite of Salah in carrying Liverpool to that Premier League title. This guy was good. We saw this guy perform. And even if PSG did beat Liverpool, it went down to a penalty shootout because they could only get one goal against their defense. And for me, if Van Dijk is in that defense, you have to give him his flowers, because you cannot give flowers to one guy on a certain team for doing something, and then when the other guy does his version of that in that team, you don't give him his flowers, which is a problem we're going to get to later in this video, I think, a lot, especially from a particular team. You cannot have Van Dijk at 28th. I'm sorry, you just cannot. In my world, you just cannot have Van Dijk at 28th. It just doesn't make sense to tell me that Van Dijk was just like one position above Florian Wirtz last season. This guy was doing amazing defensive work in the Premier League. Maybe me putting him at 13th, I can hold my hands up and say maybe I'll put him a little bit too high in your opinion, but that's just where I believed he should have been. So that, for me, that one is the third wrong decision in a row. Olise, too low. Wirtz shouldn't have just been there from the beginning. Van Dijk, too low. Next up, Declan Rice. Genuinely didn't care when he came on screen. Not even because I hate him because of the Arsenal, Real Madrid, the free kicks. No, genuinely, I actually love Declan Rice. I find him a very good player. I love his character. He's a good guy. He's just a funny guy. Why I say I didn't care about his placements, because even I, and it's even funny, on the time when the 30-minute shortlist came out, I had him in 27th. I just stuck him in 27th and said, I don't really see much that you've done, as opposed to the other players on this list. But being honest, you guys can hate on me, and I want the Premier League guys to correct me on this one if you really believe. And not just Arsenal and Liverpool fans, but Premier League, avid, like, neutral, pure watchers of the Premier League. Explain to me how Rice was better than Van Dijk. You can tell me they went further in the Champions League, but my guy, when you're in the same league, for me, if you're in the same league, and this might, for some of you, this may even seem like some dead ball knowledge, but if you're in the same league and I, outperform you, like I win the league, and we're two top players, so I'm not saying some shit like Bajcetic, if they win the Premier League, is all of a sudden better than Haaland. I mean in the sense of, if we're judging their performances, I don't see how Declan Rice is above Virgil van Dijk. You can give me that, but I just don't see it. I don't understand how you come to that decision. But anyway, let's be honest, guys. Call me a hater if you want, bro. Above that 26-year-old you're seeing there, we saw the nation. It's England, bro. There's the English PR. There's like a lot of English bias, and there's a lot of Premier League bias in the Ballon d'Or. It's just fitting. Like, of course, Rodri was like the outright best in my opinion. Like I thought it was Vinicius because I'll be honest, because of the Madrid and what I saw him during the season. But Rodri was very good. That's the only time where he didn't even really need that English PR push that much because he was already doing enough. But we have to be honest, guys. What the English Premier League does for their players is amazing. I actually don't hate it. I find it amazing because if you believe in something, you're gonna push it, and I believe in speaking for your truth. So if you think like Declan Rice was 27th and above Virgil van Dijk and Olise, talk what you want to talk, bro. That's how you feel. But I just feel like I also put him in 27th because I heard people below him who were not, Van Dijk on the Olise. But we'll get to them in a little bit of a second. Next up, we have Mr. Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland, 26th. I have no problem with this. Actually, this is one of those where I didn't match up with France Football's list and my list. It didn't connect, but I have no problem with this. I actually had him in 28th. And I'll explain why. Because for me, I feel like for Haaland, people shouldn't think of this as like a terrible season. Because for his standards, it's terrible, but it's amazing. This is a terrible season for him because what Haaland did last season is what everyone wants, like they're like a minor team would want their striker to be doing. He still had the goals. He still had some good goals. City, unfortunately, just like us, when trophyless, had a very bad season last season. He was out of action for some periods of that season, but he didn't genuinely have like the worst season ever, like a player can have. And on his standards, it's a bad season, but I don't really mind. I had him at 28th. I'll be honest, I said it. This is one of those you guys can even debate on me. You can like tell me if you think it's valid, if you think it's wrong, but I had him at 28th. They have him at 26th. I have no problems with that one. Next up is number 25, Denzel Dumfries. Denzel Dumfries. What are my thoughts on Denzel Dumfries? I'll be honest with you. They had him at 25th. I had him at 25th, actually. I also had him at 25th because, first of all, you guys knew, if you watched the previous video, this guy was one of those players that said I gave him like a half tick of validity being in this list because I didn't really fully see why he was in this list. I understand the work Inter were doing, but for me, that's a little bit of a Champions League bias. Let's be honest. They bombed the league and actually bombed the league. Not like they were just bad all of the time. They were good and then they bombed it with all these defensive errors, conceding a lot towards the end, just like in the Champions League. I think they went the whole league phase conceding like 2 goals. And then in their knockout stages, I think they went on to concede more than even teams like Barcelona, who were consistently conceding and not having like a lot of clean sheets. So if you're judging him based off that, I said it, and I'll stick with this one, bro. I could have stuck him more because you cannot have Denzel Dumfries in your top men's 30, and you don't have Jules Koundé. And you can be telling me that I'm just a Premier League guy, or I'm a La Liga guy, but I'm a Real Madrid fan, and I'm a realist. Bro, the work that Jules Koundé was putting in, this guy for me was one Champions League final away from being said that he was better than Hakimi. And you know it. You know it's the truth. If they didn't get injured, him and Baude, and they played that second leg against Inter, and then they beat Inter, and then they went and won the Champions League, the narrative would have flipped. Hakimi wouldn't have been the top right back in your opinion. People would have been hyping, Jules Koundé. Maybe even like you would have still been hyping Hakimi, but it would have been very even. And for me, if you're living in a world where that's the one thing that separates them, I don't know what type of world you're trying to live in, bro. Because for me, I just feel it was a bit of it was done dirty, man. He was done dirty. Jules Koundé should have been here, but I put Dumfries at 25. They had him at 25. I have no problems with it. At the end of the day, I really just don't care. So we'll move on. Next up is Fabian Ruiz. Fabian Ruiz being 24th, I actually didn't really agree with this, but not to a degree. I didn't like over disagree with it because I had him at 21st. I had him in my 21st position. So for me, Fabian Ruiz, how I see it is, towards the end, people started realizing that he's been good, but he's just not been as good as the other two in the midfield, but he has still been important. And that's why I have no problem, actually, with the 24th. I just feel like, some of the people you put above him, you have to be careful with, especially because of the guy who's coming next. If you guys know, for those of you who know, the guy who's coming next. I just don't think genuinely that guy was better than Fabian Ruiz. I feel like the work he was putting in was insane. And even, he had the benefits, like just I think every Spanish, French, German, and Portuguese player had the benefits of, after the season finished, they still had that major UEFA Nations League to go back to and then, add on to that hype. And then they have the Club World Cup to add on to that hype of that Ballon d'Or pedigree. Did enough for me, had very, very good season. And if we're seeing how important the Club World Cup has been, as we'll see with some players as we come to them in the future, I feel like he could have been 21st. I had him at 21st. I won't over disagree, but I also won't agree with him being 24th. It's kind of a bit of a done dirty deal, but what can you do? Next up, Jude Bellingham. Jude at 23, I see where they're coming from. I see where you can build this narrative of him being 23rd and him being like above some of the people you've put. But I just genuinely put him at 24th. I just put him one down. I said he was 24th because, I had someone better at 23rd. I don't think personally that this is too bad, but I also feel like it's not too good, because his season was really just never going to be as strongly, his Ballon d'Or pedigree was never going to be as strong as it was in that, debut season for Real Madrid. And hopefully when it comes back this season, he can do much more and get his name a bit up there. But 23 for me, what can you do, man? I don't fully disagree with this because I had him at 24th, so not really have a big problem with that. 22nd was Mr. Alexis McAllister. What were my thoughts on McAllister? First of all, when he was in the list, he was one of those who actually shocked me because when I saw him, it was like, of course, some English PR push with Liverpool, but I didn't disagree because if you watched him, I was shocked that they even actually could see a person like McAllister and give him the props for what he had because he had a beautiful season. He really did. He had a beautiful season. This one, same with Van Dijk, the same Van Dijk and then Salah comparisons I made. I put him at 14th, just below Van Dijk because I said genuinely, I think it's a bit done dirty. I think he was better than a lot of people, and it won't go as seen as that because of like the fact that he was just like in the midfield, not really doing that much. They didn't really have that big Champions League pedigree, and it sucks when they do that to you. But for me, McAllister was putting in that work. McAllister was actually grinding in that midfield. He was helping, and he was a very big part. You might not even agree with it, but he was a very big part to Liverpool's success in the Premier League last season. So for me, I had him at 14th. Just like Van Dijk, you guys can come at me and tell me in the comments what you think, if that's correct. Maybe I'm giving a little bit of that heavy glaze on them, but that's just how I saw it, to be honest with you. Next, at 21, we have Sergio Guirassy. I hope I said that right, guys. Come on, give me some of that. Sergio Guirassy. Okay, I messed it up on the second try. But Guirassy at 21st, it's one of those who was it? Was it Jude? I don't know if it was Jude. Probably like Fabian Ruiz, where I don't have a full problem with you being there, but I did put him higher on my list actually, because I personally had him at 19th. I had Sergio Guirassy at 19th. I'll explain. I feel like, Dortmund didn't have the most, eye-catching season to have. It's one of their weaker seasons. But, and even if they were fraudulent, you guys cannot take away the fact that this guy scored 13 goals in the Champions League. I'm not trying to put that Champions League bias, being the only thing that pushes, like, Champions League is all is that ends all. But no, as in genuinely someone cannot score 13 Champions League goals. And then, by the way, that means him coming, and he came out in the quarterfinals. So he scored 13 Champions League goals from the match week 1 of the league phase up into the quarterfinal second leg. He had 13 goals. That is actually crazy. It's something that, for me, you can talk about the quality of the goals. You can talk about the teams he scored against. But for me, when I see such things, I see it as goals because at the end of the day, what do you want him to do? If Dortmund have been given to play against Eintracht Frankfurt or have been given Genk or Bodo Glimt and he scores, you wanted him to choose. You wanted him to say, no, I won't score against this. And by the way, he did have a hat-trick against Barcelona. So 3 of those goals you cannot remove. They're against a team like Barcelona. Some of these goals were against a team like Benfica. They were performing well. Dortmund, in the Champions League, had a good run for a little bit until they made Barcelona and lost, of course. But he scored 13 goals in the Champions League. That's why I personally, for me, that's one of the biggest pushes. That's one of the reasons I pushed him higher on my list, because I just felt like, it's a bit of a dirty deal to put him at 21st because he was a high-performing striker. Even if, and I think he also scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga. I just need to fact-check that. You guys can fact-check me in the comments, but I did believe he had a lot of goals in the Bundesliga. But, of course, as we've seen with the European Golden Boot, if you're not scoring goals in the Premier League or La Liga or Champions League, your goals are seen as like half, bro. So, anyway, what you going to do, guys? 21st, I had him in 19th. Okay. The next on this list. Nah, let me have a sip of water first. 20th was Mr. Lautaro Martinez, bro. I'm not even a hater. I'll just be. I'm not a hater, but there's no way. There is just no way you guys are telling me you watched the entirety of last season and you have Lautaro Martinez being your 20th position, man. It just doesn't work like that. Maybe I was being harsh. I had him at 26, man. I had him at 26 because, you know, him this season and him last season, bro. I think he's riding. I think genuinely they rode him off on the wave, the ripple effect of the wave from his last season performance. Because last season, I did also feel he got done dirty. Remember when he was supposed to be in that like top four, maybe six, and then I think they gave him like eighth or something. I feel like last season he was done dirty. This season they were trying to like apologize or something because this guy is not the 20th best player from last season. Let's be honest. Maybe my 26 is a little bit harsh. You can have him there, but I'm not having him like bar the teams going up. He's not there, and I don't think he's 20th. I had him at 20. I had him 26. That's my thoughts. That's how I believe it should have been. I don't know what he's doing there at 20th, man. It's kind of fraudulent for me. These are one of those, again, I'll say, they know that there's going to be a lot of disparity from number 1 to 5, so they just play around, man. In the middle, especially in the middle, man. At the end, they don't really know who. They feel bad, so they just give it like whoever. But in the middle, like that, I think I'll say 17th to 23, maybe 24, 22 positions, they really just be playing around. They just be like putting names here and there and there and there and they're just like not caring because they're like, okay, everybody knows, of course, you guys are not gonna win the Ballon d'Or, so we can do whatever we want with you, but like obviously not too crazy like putting Jude Bellingham ahead of someone like a Dewey. So that's for me how they get crazy, and this is one of those things where they got crazy. I am in 26, he's in 20th. Next up, man, this one, I'll be honest, done actually dirty. Done actually dirty for two reasons. Jean Neves was was 19th on the Ballon d'Or short list. I had him at 12th, man. I had him at 12th, and I'm not gonna take any prisoners. I'm not gonna take any, backlash on that. This guy for me was number 12, and it was valid. I put this one at 12, and I had it valid because for one reason, for me, it was genuinely for one reason. You cannot literally tell me that, and I'm gonna spoil the future, guys. So I'm sorry. You can skip if you don't want to spoil it. I don't know why you don't want to spoil it in this type of video episode, but they had Vitinha sitting at third this season, and then you put João Neves at 19th. And I'm not saying that João Neves is better than Vitinha. Maybe not. Maybe he's not. I can't even say he's not. But from the seasons they had, genuinely from the seasons they had, and the work they're putting in that season, you cannot tell me, it is not possible for you to tell me that there is a 16 placement difference between Vitinha and João Neves. No, you just cannot. Because even importance in the PSG midfield, you cannot tell me. That's the equivalent of saying that what they've done with this placement is they've genuinely said Vitinha was carrying all, João Neves was his lackey, and Fabian Ruiz was just dead weight pushing it up, holding the ball to pass to those two. That's genuinely what these placements is. Putting Fabian Ruiz at 24th, putting João Neves at 19th, and then putting Vitinha at 3rd is a disgrace to João Neves and Fabian Ruiz. Because if you're doing the same work for PSG, and that midfield was doing a lot of work, because as much as you hype Vitinha's attacking work, no one's hyping João Neves' defensive work. He was holding it down with Fabian Ruiz. He was chasing the balls back. He was playing like CB at times, not like actual playing center back, but running back and helping in the center back positions. Like, the fact, something ironic, I'll even point out, the fact in this photo, bro looks like he's sweating because of just how much he was running when they took this photo, bro. He was sweating because he was running back to center back and then running to the attack, giving Vitinha the ball, lay it off to Doué or Dembele or something like that. But you cannot have this guy at 19th, man. You cannot tell me there are 16 placement points ahead of each other, like, or difference between each other, Vitinha and João Neves. It's just not possible. You cannot explain that to me, man. And then the one with Fabian Ruiz, if you want to be meta, you can say that away from PSG, the differentiating factor was their international pedigree, what they did on that stage. But last I checked, what's reading above that 20-year-old? POR, it's Portugal. João Neves and Vitinha are both Portuguese. So for whatever trophies you're gonna hype Vitinha for winning, you gotta give João Neves because he did play. He did play in the Nations League. It's not like he got injured. He played in the Nations League, so they both won 6 trophies. They both had beautiful performances in the season. They both had good stats. Obviously, Vitinha just had better, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying João Neves should be higher. I do believe he's less than Vitinha, but 16 placement points. Let that sink in. 16. So you have João Neves, and then you count 16, and then you have Vitinha. That's disrespect. That's disrespect in my opinion. I had him at 12th, and I'm not even backing down on this one. He was the 12th best player that season, man. France football, bro. What are we doing? What are we doing? Next up, we have Mr. Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay, 18th. Do I have a problem with that? Yes, I had a little bit of a problem with that. I'm happy that they recognized him when he was on that short list, but being honest, I know you helped. Like, he was a very, very major part of Napoli winning the Scudetto. Of course, with the help of like people like Zabon Gisa, Conte and the coaching, maybe even a bit of like Lukaku here and there, but he was like a main part. I'll be honest with that. I can't take that away from him. He was a main part. He reshaped his career. He did amazing work. I had him at I think this is one of the first ones where they've put a player higher than I had him. I had him at 22nd because this is what I'm talking about when I say they just play around, because the problem with when you start to play around in the middle and just throw out names is you almost forget people you left behind as you're looking for who should keep going forward. So that's why I want you guys to answer this question for me in the comments. Which one do you guys think is better? Genuinely, in your opinion, if you had to make a short list of anything, not just the Ballon d'Or, even like, ranking anything you're doing, ranking anime, ranking musicians, ranking anything based on credits, do you think it's better to start from the winner and then start filling in the blanks going downwards? Or you think it's better to start from the last position and work your way up? Because I think these guys go from bottom to up, and I think that's why we have things like this happening. Because as you go from bottom to up, you put someone and then forget you put them there, and then put someone up. Because I just don't see how McTominay is better than some of the players you've mentioned before. I'm not even trying to be like different, but I don't see how McTominay is better than João Neves in my opinion. There's a lot, man. There's a lot, but I have no problems like fully with this. I just have some problems in the fact that maybe he's a bit too high, but it's not one of those like outright I'm like furious at the decision. So I can see where they came from. Next up, Mr. Robert Lewandowski, 17th. It's a good position because I feel like when I'm looking at mine, I had him at 20th. One thing I will say I didn't take into account is sometimes, even if you might say he wasn't like as impactful, you have to think that for every trophy that you're hyping up Lamine Yamal for, he was also winning, he was also playing, and then it goes down to the performances and the players. So trophy wise, they're at the same level. So you have to go down to the fact that you have to give him that. So maybe my 20th might have been a bit meaner, but I'm okay with both. I'm okay with seeing him at 17th. I'm okay with seeing him at my 20th. So that one for me, I have no qualms with that. Where I do have a problem with is the person next, the person coming after Robert Lewandowski. So I'm not gonna waste time. We're gonna go straight into who was next. So next up, France football. Why you doing this to me, bro? Why you gotta make me do this to me? Oh, Vinicius Jr. Vinicius Jr. basically, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I love my guy. You guys, I don't need to talk about how much I love Vinicius. I will say, when I checked his stats, I do want to say, I'll just point this out. Vinicius Jr.'s season literally tanked just after the Ballon d'Or ceremony of last season, the one with Rodri. You don't know what happened. I think when he said that 10 times harder nonsense, it just like got to his mentality, and that's where his season tanked. But before, he was performing good, not excellent, not great, but good. And then people forget like a game like that Dortmund one, the 5-2 we hit on them. He scored a hat trick in that match. I want you to remember that. He was performing well, but the fall off just after the Ballon d'Or ceremony, man, you cannot say this guy was the 16th best player in the world. Nah. It's not happening. I might have been harsh because when it came out, it was just after the Club World Cup, meaning it was like 2 weeks, I think, after our PSG game. I was a little bit upset with a lot of Real Madrid players. I had Vinicius Jr. at 29th, not because I think he was the 29th like best player in the world, and not because I think like everyone was that much higher than him. It's because I didn't see a reason why he was in this list at all. I'm not saying that he was in top 30, but I just feel like he can be replaced. He was good. It's a two-way thing. It's a two-way thing. You can either see him as he was good enough to be in the list but not high enough as there, or he wasn't good enough to be in the list at all and they should have been someone else in his position. And you can make the argument for both. I'm not going to talk too much. I just feel like it's a disgrace to put him above Lewandowski and João Neves, because you cannot tell me that those are like playing. You see what I'm saying when I talk about this playing around thing, man? You see what I'm talking about when I say this playing around thing? It really gets to my nerves, man. So Vinicius Jr. 16th, bro. That's what you end up with. I hope you're happy, France football, man. I'm not even gonna celebrate it. Like genuinely, I'm just pissed off for the fact that this guy went from being second to being 16th, man. I really just hope that Vinicius Jr. can find his form again and just start getting back in his highlights, bro. This next season is his chance. But then I'm already seeing, and I'm about to release an episode, guys. I'll say like infighting between him and Xavi Alonso. Vinicius Jr., man. Like where did it go wrong, man? Like. Man, you see, you guys, you should just give him the Ballon d'Or last season, man. Then we would have had a crazy Vinicius. Now look what you've gone and done, man. You gave Rodri with an ACL, so he didn't even play the season, so he didn't make the 30-minute shortlist. And then you give Vinicius second, and then it just made him, like, depressed. And then he tried to be on that, like, YouTube motivation. I'll do it 10 times harder, and then just ended up being 16th, bro. Dropping 14 places down. Man, whatever, honestly. Number 15. Was Victor Gyökeres. I'll be honest. I think when I was making my list, I didn't really give him too much props because I'll be honest, I was a bit harsh. I did have him at 23rd, which was, okay, you can flame me for that. It was crazy. But my reasoning was, I understand why they put him so high because this guy was your Gerd Müller champion, you know, the top scorer. He scored the most goals in Europe, I think in the world last season. So I have no problem with that. That gives him a high prop as a striker. For him to do that is crazy. I just feel like, okay, maybe I was being a little bit harsh. I don't think I can put him at 23. I also don't know if I can put him at 15, though. I don't think he's in that top half of players from last season. But again, you know, maybe he could be. Maybe we're all just being biased. Maybe this one actually France football cooked and people won't actually see it. So I can actually see this. I'll take the L on this one. You put him in 23rd is crazy. I was on my France football vibes with that one, being, you know, a little bit higher European bias. But, okay, I don't know if it's 15th, though. I don't know if it's 15th, man. Okay, this one's kind of confusing, so I won't talk too much about this. I kind of disagree, because, you know, as a striker, if he has, and he won his league, they won the Liga Portugal, and he scored the most goals of all of your strikers in the top leagues and everything, you can like make the argument. Of course, these are for like lower leagues, but for me, same thing I said for Guirassy. Same thing. I was a bit upset when they gave Mbappe the European Golden Boot because they had to put his coefficient as 1.5. I see it as, I do understand what you mean by the competition, but we have to be honest. For example, this season, man, Real Oviedo are in the La Liga, so if Mbappe scores against them, how does that count as 2? But this guy scoring in Liga Portugal against a Benfica counts as 1.5. You see, that's why I don't like that dropping leagues down, because it's not like there's just one big team and then a bunch of farmers teams he's playing against. They're big teams and then they're lower teams, like, you know, just like in every league. So I don't see how you can like disparage his goals, and I'm happy he got the Gerd Müller. I'm proud for him, man. I don't know if he can do the same at Arsenal. He's kind of a little bit shaky right now, but he's still good. He's still in good form, but we'll see. So this one, I'll say they got the dub. I got the L. I'll put my hands up. 23rd is a little bit crazy. Next up, Desiree Doué. Do I have problems with this? I had a bit of a problem with this. Yeah, I actually did. I hyped Doué a lot for this season, but it was mostly just to troll my Barca fans. You know, just trying to troll them in the Copa Trophy. I actually laughed because I don't know why there was even like a little bit of a, you know, conversation when it came to the Copa Trophy of, will Doué beat Yamal for it? I literally said, guys, these guys have like shot themselves in the foot. Like, you know, the minute we saw Lamine Yamal in the Copa rankings, we knew it's a done deal. This trophy is like the most obvious one. Like, this is more obvious than giving, for example, Team of the Year, because bro, how were they gonna explain? Like, if they gave it, and I genuinely wanted them to give it to Doué, because I just wanted, for the memes, literally for the memes. I wanted to see France football have to explain how this guy finished now, because we've seen the rankings, finished 12 positions below this guy in the men's Ballon d'Or. But when it's the youngsters trophy, he wins it over him. So they saved themselves. They were about to lose like massive aura if they gave this guy the Copa, man. But in my list, I had Desiree Douet 17th. I just feel like this guy is one of those, I don't mean to be harsh, but with PSG, man, even with Dembele, as much as I was defending him, we have to take this into consideration, man. PSG were kind of ass at the first part of the season, man. Like a lot of their players who picked up in a massive way. And of course, Doué had like, scoring 2 goals in the Champions League final at the age of 20. He's like stuff of dreams, and he had some crazy performances. But for me, I feel like we started to see Doué round of 16 against Liverpool. That's when he started to shine. After that, he started going like up and up and becoming Mr. Moments. But this guy cannot be 14th, man. I'm just being honest. I had him at 17th, and I have no problem with that, actually. I just feel like I genuinely, because I'm looking at my list right now and I have Olise above him because I had Olise at 16th, and I have no problems with that. I even feel like Olise was better than Doué, man. He was kind of being a little bit carried through that PSG hype train, man. So you can't. What are you gonna do? Oh man, guys, I know we like to talk about different things, and you guys might say I just love this guy too much, but this guy genuinely is so disrespected by France football, man. Putting Harry Kane at 13th is insane. I am saying it, it's insane. I had Harry Kane at 8th. Maybe you can make the argument he could have dropped to 10th when you see who I had at 9 and 10. You can tell me they're better, but you're not gonna, and I'm not gonna listen to it, because with Harry Kane, let's be honest with ourselves. Just like take a moment of silence here to think about the words I'm saying. With Harry Kane, for the longest period before these last 2 seasons, your your main argument was, yeah, he scores a lot of goals in the Premier League, but if goals don't amount to anything, they're low-key kind of useless. That's why we give him like the Jared Muller and not a Ballon d'Or position. Then he makes that big transfer to Bayern Munich. And the guy does not slow down. This last season, he did not slow. He still scored amazing Harry Kane numbers. And finally, for the first time in his career, had the trophies to back up in his arsenal. A little joke there for those of you who understand. This guy, I think they won the league. They didn't win the Super Cup. They won the DFB Pokal. And he finished in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. I think he scored about was it 7 goals in the Champions League last season? You can fact check me on that in the comments. How is this guy 13th? How is this guy 13th, man? When I mention some of the players who were in that top 10, bro, I'm gonna try and put a star. Let me put a star next to Harry Kane's name as a reminder that I need to bring him up when I talk about the top 10 they gave us. I put him at 8th. I feel like Harry Kane gets majorly disrespected, bro. We all treat, and it's like something I've noticed is a pattern with like these people, like when they're giving accolades, is we all somehow treat it like, I'm not trying to compare him, but when I say the Messi and Ronaldo treatment, I mean in the sense of we do not hype something you do because we're supposed to be used to you doing that. And I've just never understood that football. It's like Messi drops 61 and then somebody hypes it and someone says, but that's Messi, bro. Like, of course he dropped 61. Bro, what? Like, Ronaldo goes 3 Champions League seasons in a row being the top scorer, and everyone's like, it's Ronaldo in the Champions League. Of course he's going to be the top scorer. What? No, there's nothing like of course, bro. Someone can score more goals. These guys, just because, you're used to them doing this, doesn't mean we should discredit it. Of course, it doesn't be like, we shouldn't treat it like it's something shocking, like somebody talking about it like it's something nobody expected, because we did expect it, but that is not a reason why you should not give the flowers to somebody for their hard work. We treat Harry Kane scoring a lot of goals like it's just something that is predetermined. He can have a bad season, if things just didn't go his way, he could have had a bad season. But the reason he doesn't is because he's a hard-working striker who doesn't get his flowers, man. Him having the goals he had last season, with the assists he has, because Harry Kane is a striker who assists, by the way, and then having the trophies to back him up. Man, that was some Bundesliga hate, and I just wish the English people would hype their striker a bit more, bro. I'm not trying to say stick him in the top 5 or anything like that, but 13th is crazy. Next up, number 12, we have. Take a little breather in this. Kvicha Kvarashkelia. Kvicha Kvarashkelia, bro. Kvarashkelia. How do I think this ranking was done? Don't have too much disagreement with it. I just put him at 15th in my list. This, of course, he had McAllister, Van Dijk, and John Neves being ahead of him to that 12th position where they put him. You can make the argument that maybe he could be higher than them, but I just feel like with Kvaratskhelia, bro, he was great, but he wasn't too amazing. He wasn't too like out of this world. He was like the perfect balance to that Dembele side, bro. Like I saw some people comparing him and Dembele to Rafinha and Yamal, and that's just not the case. That's just not the case. I have no problems with this. I had him at 15th because of the people who I had at 14, 13, and 12. But I just feel like, if you're putting my people, he goes down. But if you're not putting my people who I put Van Dijk, McAllister, and Neves in their positions, he can stay at 12. I have no problem with that. Next up, nah, you're trolling, man. You're trolling, bro. You guys do not have eyeballs, man. France football journalists, those 50, 100 nations, man. Y'all do not have eyeballs. You guys have like SofaScore stat watching eyeballs, but you guys not. Man, what is this? Let's be honest. You guys knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Like not him being there, as in like you knew I was about to get to talk about this, but bro, there is actually no way. This is just genuinely like when I saw this, guys, this genuinely just blew my mind. Like I actually thought they were trolling. This and what they did to his friend, who I'll get to in a second. I genuinely thought they were trolling. I thought they were trying to see like how can we get everybody to react, and we like some guy comes out and says, "Oh, sorry, it was an editing problem. Actually, this guy should have been higher on the list. Oh, my bad, my bad." But like they continue like it was normal. They continue like what they did to this guy was normal, bro. How in the actual how is Pedri Gonzalez gonna be 11th? How are you gonna tell me that he's not even a top 10 player? They could have got away with doing some stupid stuff like putting him at 10th, just for saying that he's a top 10. But how is he 11th, man? You guys can tell me, I was heavy glazing him. I had him at 7th on my list, bro. 7th, because that's just genuinely where I believed he should have been. This guy, the work he was putting in with Barcelona last season, bro. Watch Pedri. That's all I can say, man. Watch Pedri. You can go ahead. It's like when people were trying to compare Jude and him last season. They came with the angle, and this is when I started to know that things were about to get very crazy for him. They came with the angle of, no, but Jude had twice as much goals and assists as Pedri, so he's better. And then when people started to say that, like when actual Real Madrid fans used that as a defensive point of why Jude was better than Pedri, I knew that even in the Ballon d'Or, this guy's about to get stick up. He's about to get done dirty, bro, because I knew that everybody's going to be looking at his stats. Him having, I think it was 4 goals and 4 assists. They're going to look at that and say this guy was an ass. But genuinely, if we're talking about midfielders, I'm not even talking about like football players. I'm talking about the midfielders you've ranked on this list. He is the best. He is the best pure midfielder of everyone on this list. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. The Jude one, like, if we're talking about last season, let's be clear now. If we're talking about last season, he's the best pure midfielder. But like if we're going just off football wise, and then this is gonna be where they get themselves in the foot, because people are gonna come to me, and you guys, some of you might even come to me in the comments and say, "No, that's not true, bro. Look at what Vitinha did, bro. Pedri just has. How can you talk about Pedri just having good performances when he dropped like some ass stats, and then, but then that's exactly what you did with number 2 on this list. He didn't have the stats better than some of the people ahead of him. You gave him that because of course, one is his age. I'm not going to say it's the big factor, but it was his age. And the second one was his performances on the pitch. He was being the best player in the world on the pitch, if we're being honest. How does that not translate to this? How does that not translate to Pedri Gonzalez, who, first of all, maybe you guys might be thinking that he's some like 28-year-old Donny. That's just because of how good he is. He's 22. Turned 22, so he was 21 at the start of the season. A 21-year-old, That's a young player. This guy's 2 years older than Desiree Douay, who you guys might be thinking is 16. Nah, he's 2 years older than Douay. The work he's doing, bro. He feels like genuinely. Ask me right now. If you gun to my head, gun to anybody's head, I can tell you. You think you've been seeing Pedri play for like 8 years already, bro. Let's be honest. You think you've been seeing Pedri play for like 8 years. He's become like a normal person in your mind. But I want to remind you. I think this guy got his start in 2020. That's when they got him from Las Palmas. He got his professional Barcelona start in 2020, 5 years ago. 5 years ago. If not, 2020 is then we go into the 2021 season when he played 100 games, bro. When he won his Copa Trophy, bro. Pedri's name, y'all need to start putting some respect on Pedri's name, man. I had him at 7th. I don't know what he's doing, even having a double digit next to his picture there, bro. Bro, man. Especially when we go into the further people who are ahead of him. You're about to see, man. I don't know what France football is doing, man. Number 10, Gianluigi Donnarumma. They have Donnarumma at number 10. Do I have a problem with that? I don't. I actually don't, because I had him at 10th. And anybody who says he's not supposed to be in 10th, I'll just remind you that if you're trying to be different, you have to choose your side. If you're trying to be different and on one hand say, I just feel like there shouldn't be any attacking bias for players in the Ballon d'Or. We should just look at the attackers. We should look at all the positions. I feel like just by virtue of that statement, the Yashin, the best goalkeeper in the world, should be in the top 10 of the Ballon d'Or. It's a given, no matter what you tell me. I think that one should become a staple rule. You can tell me what you want to tell me, right? But the best keeper in the season, the Yashin Trophy, the guy you give it to and say this guy was outright our best goalkeeper of all the goalkeepers in the world for this season, that guy's automatically in the top 10 because he's a top 10 football player, because he is in the top, he's in the position. So you have to have your best attacker in that list. You have to have your best midfielder in that list. You have in the top 10. You have to have your best defender in your top 10, and you have to have your best goalkeeper. And genuinely, I'm happy that he's in there. They saved themselves. When I saw him at 10, I said, okay, that's valid. I had him at 10, they had him at 10. It was valid. I saw no problem with that because that's how it is. I think my rule is just perfect. When you are the Yashin, you are meant. It's a given. You have to be in that top 10, man. No questions asked. Donnarumma, I have no problems. Number 9, Nuno Mendes. Another one I didn't actually have problems with. I actually put him at 9th. I feel like this guy had a beautiful season. This guy is the fullback you tell me you put above in the list if you're not putting someone like a Balde or Kunde in that list, because the work he was doing is incredible. He's Portuguese, by the way, so he also had that sextuple. Sextuple, plus the season they had, plus the people who was locking up in the Champions League. We don't know the pedigree. We had Salah, Saka, Lamine Yamal. Salah, Saka, in the final, who did lock up? Okay, he didn't really have that much to do against Inter Milan because, Yamal in the Nations League final. This guy was beautiful. Player of the tournament, by the way. Player of the tournament of the Nations League. This guy, man. Genuinely, when I said you have to have the best attacker, best midfielder, best defender, I think he can be the best defender, in my opinion. Genuinely. You can tell me this guy was the best defender last season, and I'll believe it. But they didn't actually agree with that because they had someone higher, who we'll get to in a bit. So 9th, Nuno Mendes, I had him there. I agree. Oh, I'm sorry. Number before I talk on this one, guys, and by the way, no disrespect to the guy, I don't hate him. I love him, but I just want to do a quick experiment. I want to see if ChatGPT can cook something for me. I'll just put in the prompt: analyze the media in football from August 2024 to August 2025. Tell me what was being said about Cole Palmer in these periods. Let's just put that prompt in. and let's get back her feedback, because her feedback to this will actually be very important. So it's searching the web, and it said, here's a summary of how Cole Palmer was portrayed in the media between August 24 and August 2025, what people were praising, criticizing, and the general narrative. Positive and praising coverage uh, towards the late, it's talking about the Club World Cup, saying he was given high praise for his performances and what entertainment value and creativity, strong start versus comparisons with the past. Okay. The criticisms, pressure, and challenges. After having a blistering start to the 2024-25 season, there was a long period, 3 months plus, when Palmer didn't score or assist much. Media picked up on this, talked about expectations being very high and how he did not meet them. He publicly addressed the criticism from fans and social media, saying idiots and trolls after breaking his goal drought of 4 months. Consistency issues. Some reports suggested that after the strong start, his output dipped, his assists lagged, and people said his influence was not as much. Enzo Maresca, his coach, was quoted saying, "You can't expect him to always perform at last season's peak." I want to highlight that. I'll stop there. I'm not hating on this guy. I'm not saying he was ass. I'm not saying he had the trash season, but Enzo Maresca's words are true. For the longest of the first period of the season, people were criticizing this guy and calling him a one-season wonder. You guys said that he will not be what he was. All of the haters, most of these, yeah, I'll be honest, some of these are haters. They were the haters, but y'all was saying that this guy won't be what he was in that previous season when we were making those Cole Palmer edits, bro. And yet, for the longest period, until when he started to pick up gradually, not even too crazy, but gradually, Chelsea didn't even cut top four. He was playing the Conference League, which for me, I give them the hype. Of course, winning any tournament you're in is a hard thing because you can lose. But when you're Chelsea, who have $1 billion squad going into the Conference League against teams who have $100,000 squad, you kind of have an advantage. It's kind of expected. It's a given. Then we have the Club World Cup, and I'm going to make this, you can call me a theorist all you want, but I genuinely believe that this placement at 8th, this guy at 8th, is some form of trying to push the agenda of just how big the Club World Cup will be, because they've been saying that this is the equivalent of a World Cup. They've been trying to give it that hype. They made it every 4 years, first of all, which is just like a World Cup. They've been saying it's the biggest team from every confederation, so it's like, it's world football. We're going to even have like African confederation teams, and we're going to have Oceania confederation teams. It's going to be the Club World Cup. They're trying to make this thing the World Cup, and this was their first step through that door, saying that this guy's performances in the Club World Cup can now just make him somehow the 8th best player in this season. Man, you're joking, bro. You're actually trolling, and I genuinely believe that you have to be trolling, bro. Ironically, I had him 10 places down because I had Palmer at 18th because I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I said, of course, the trophies he had and the performances and your stats still give you some good pedigree. I'm not saying this guy should be 30th. Anybody who's saying that this guy should be 30th or like 20th, even in the 20s, you're kind of crazy. But you cannot have this guy at 8th, and even just to bring it back, to reel you back in, you can't have this guy at 8th and have Pedri at 11th, bro. Man, this English PR goes crazy. It really does, bro. I'm not even going to talk too much on this because, I feel like genuinely, we all know how we feel about this, bro. This guy, for me, I'm just being honest, him being over Harry Kane, it's just the Club World Cup. It's genuinely just the Club World Cup, man. Number 7. Yeah, the boy, bro. Number 7 was Kylian Mbappe. The minute the shortlist was released, I had him at 5th because, of course, I thought, Kylian Mbappe for me was the 5th best player in the world. No question about that. No question about that. No question about that. Maybe a little bit of Madrid bias there, but 7th, 5th is 2 places, guys. It's one of those where I agree with them, they agree with me. Something like that. It could have been either way, but Mbappe's placement now starts to feel a little bit like crazy when you see the stick of jobs they did to some people. Because I made this point with my brother just after the ceremony. I said, if I'm being honest, Mbappe's season isn't too different from Harry Kane's, and Kane had the trophies. So putting Kane at 13th and Mbappe at 7th is actually crazy. But I won't to talk too much about this, bro. You know, you can have him at 7th. Of course, you had him in your top 10 because the season he did have was actually insane. It was crazy. And his first season at Real Madrid, that being his first season at Real Madrid, it's insane, bro. Next up, number 6, we had Achraf Hakimi. I just didn't agree with this one. I had him at 11th. I still had him very close to the top 10. I just don't feel like this guy was 6th. I would tell you, gun in my head, I'll actually confess it. I think Nuno Mendes was just way better than this guy. I love Hakimi, the very hard worker, scored in the Champions League final, which was, for a defender, something crazy. But I just feel like, you know, Nuno Mendes was better than this guy for me, like as PSG's defender. He carried hard. I'm not saying he's bad. That's why I had him in 11th, which was just like 2 places, below Nuno Mendes. But if you want to put him at 6th, you can do what you want to do, man. I have no qualms with that. Now, wow. Wow, there's a reason this is there. It's not to troll. I'm actually not happy. I'm a Madrid fan and I hated this guy for like the longest of last season, almost all of last season. But wow, bro, how? Explain to me, like genuinely explain to me, how in the heck this guy, this man. I want you to take a close look at this guy. For those of you who don't know, allow me to introduce him. His name is Rafinha. He is the left wing attacker for FC Barcelona. He is the guy who scored 13 goals in the Champions League season. A number, as much as he was tied with Girassi, a number that was almost about to achieve the greatness of one Cristiano Ronaldo some years back. This guy, I think he played 57 games. I see 57, sometimes I see 68. Okay, but in that range of games, he had, I think, 34 goals and 24, if not 22, assists. For those of you stat merchants out there, this guy won the La Liga trophy, which in my opinion, best, but you can say second best league in the world. He won the Copa del Rey. For those of you who do not watch football outside of the Premier League, that is our FA Cup. He won the Supercopa de España, which is our Carabao Cup in a certain way, sort of our like Carabao Cup ex-Community Shield type of trophy. He won the domestic treble. In Spain, he was the Serie winner. In Barcelona, he was the top scorer. In La Liga, he was, and should have been, the best player in the league. Deservedly so. And after all that, this guy was a Champions League semi-finalist. Bronze medal. I say bronze because we all know that Arsenal were not bronze if they had a 3rd and 4th place match. Bronze medal. 13 Champions League goals. A hat-trick against Bayern Munich. The Bayern Munich. And if you know that Barcelona Bayern Munich lore, you know that. And it wasn't some Uchreich in goal, bro. That was Manuel Neuer in goals, bro. This guy had 13 goals in the Champions League, and I think he had, 7 assists. Maybe less. You guys can fact check me on that. Bro. I actually couldn't believe my eyes when I saw this guy at 5th, man. I actually, just like with Pedri, I thought they were trolling, man. I thought they were about to come back and just say like it was a joke, we just wanted to see your reaction to this. But how are you gonna have that guy with all that I've mentioned? By the way, guys, how are you gonna have him at 5th? I genuinely want anyone who agrees with this. I want to find you guys in the comments. If you're watching this, listening to this, if you're France football and you just see my channel by any chance, text me. I can even, if you want my number, bro, I can even give you my number. I can give you my email if you want. I can give you my Instagram if you want, bro. You can even leave it in the comments if you want, bro. We can have a one-on-one debate for like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours straight. Just telling me, try and convince me why this guy's 5th. How this guy's 5th. Bro, for those of you who were waiting for me to tell you where I had him, genuinely, I had him at 2nd. Hate on me if you want. You know who's above. If I still have the winner correct, then you know who was below him. It was that guy, that teenage sensation. I had him at 2nd. I'm not even gonna listen to anybody, bro. I've had Rafinha on 2nd from the minute they reached the semifinals of the Champions League. I had him at 2nd. I know that guy has been doing what he's been doing with the ball and crazy, and he's maybe the next Messi. But genuinely, guys, I want to make a point. A lot of people were saying like Barcelona fans should be ashamed of themselves, for not pushing this guy, their best players that are pushing. They chose to push the guy with 9 goals or something like that. I don't even care about that anymore. Because first of all, it's true. Because genuinely, I want to tell you guys that if a Madrid player, if Mbappe next season drops a Rafinha, bro, we're giving him the Ballon d'Or. No matter whether you have a Dembele, even if somebody won the Champions League, we would genuinely give him the Ballon d'Or because this guy did everything we want. Genuinely, why I feel bad for this guy is because he did, apart from the Champions League, every single thing I wished Vinicius Jr. would do to get above Rodri. He had more goals than Vini last season, like way more goals. He had way more assists. He had better games, more crucial performances, team achievements, fair play, bro. Like, yeah, of course, once in a while he was a bit of a crash out. We understand that's Brazilian energy, bro. They love the game. But in terms of fair play, I don't think he genuinely had anybody who would say, I played against this guy and he was like being rude or aggressive or cocky. This guy just loved his football, man. And being honest, you guys may not hear it, but a lot of you talk about Dembele's comeback story, come from Mr. Inconsistent, the guy nobody cared about, got shipped away to PSG. This guy came in from Leeds, bro. Joined Barcelona, man. He genuinely, I'll say it right now, he was auraless, bro. He was auraless when he joined Barcelona, bro. Oh, that aura he had bringing Leeds into the Premier League, it like literally left when he came to Spain because he was just like, he was a nobody, man. Genuinely was a nobody. I couldn't care less about Rafinha in 2021, bro, in 2022. Dembele, the guy who took the Ballon d'Or here, sorry, had his position. Xavi preferred Dembele. He would remove Rafinha because Rafinha just wasn't the guy, bro. He just wasn't the one. And then he got that captain armband. And then he lost the little curls and he got them dreadlocks. You see the cornrows there. And this guy entered the form of his life, bro. Genuinely, I'm calling it right now, bro. Any other player apart from somebody we don't like care about, like a Rafinha, because generally I see that people just didn't care about him. If any other player, and you guys might hate me for this, but if they won the domestic treble in England and Mohamed Salah did exactly what Rafinha did, y'all would be up in gates holding pitchforks and fires torches saying give Salah the Ballon d'Or, and it's a fact. It's a fact. When I talk about English PR, bro, if Salah did what, because goals wise he did, assist wise not as much, but if he did kept those stats, give Salah the Premier League, give Salah the FA Cup, and give Liverpool the Carabao Cup. If they had those and also reached the Champions League semi-final, literally the semi-final, one game before the final, and which determines the winner, you guys would have said it. You guys would have been there saying Salah should have been the Ballon d'Or. You would have been saying this is a disgrace, Dembele, what. So why can't you have the same feelings about Rafinha? Because it's the exact same situation. The other thing that killed Rafinha's chances for me, it's not even the Barcelona PR not giving him a PR. I've said this point a lot of times. I said, what's going to kill this guy is that this guy's season ended immediately when this picture was being taken. The minute the final whistle went for Inter's second leg and Barcelona were not in the Champions League final, Rafinha's season ended, bro. He genuinely, it was unfair because unlike the other two, I'm not even trying to hate, but they have to honestly respect the fact that they were born in Europe because he didn't have no Nations League to fall back on. Imagine if there was a Copa del Rey Nations League for South American Nations League and Brazil won it. People would have still found a way to say, no, but they play clubs like Colombia and what, so it's always going to be harder in that position as opposed to a European guy because we hyped up Rodri for winning the Euro, but the Copa America is seen as less than a Euro. So if a Brazilian wins it, it's it's the Copa America, bro. Chile can win that thing, bro. So he didn't have that Nations League to fall back on. And then because of Barcelona's performances in the past 5 years and all that coefficient nonsense, he didn't have a Club World Cup to fall on. So think about that. Lamine Yamal had the Nations League. He had that beautiful game against France where bro gambled his aura off that, if they want the Ballon d'Or to be decided on Thursday, let's play on Thursday, and then he scored 2 goals. And then he has the final, of course, where he dropped a stinker and Nuno Mendes killed his chances. But he still had a final. He played in an extra final. So he had a chance to have another trophy above Rafinha. Just like Vitinha had with Fabian Ruiz, where he has another trophy ahead of you. And then on top of that, people like Dembele, France had the chance to win the Nations League. And then he has the chance to win the Club World Cup. So he could have actually ended with 7 trophies if they won the Nations League. So if PSG, because think about it for Vitinha, if PSG genuinely won that Club World Cup, he would have had 7 trophies to his name. which would have been insane. 7 trophies in one season is actually crazy. That's why I said that he didn't have that. He didn't have the advantage of having 2 tournaments literally put up on the spot to help you get more votes in the Ballon d'Or. And that leaves him at 5. Man, not even a second, bro. I'm honestly I'm just speechless. Number 4, Mohamed Salah. This one for me most valid. I hear a lot of like English Premier League fans and Liverpool fans saying, "No, this guy is heavily disrespected. How you not gonna have Salah in your top 3, bro?" Genuinely, like, I don't even mean to be rude, but like, genuinely, just like, shut up, bro. Like, there's nothing you're talking about. I see where you're coming from. If you want to bring Lamine Yamal down, you can do as you want with that, but don't touch Salah's name. I had Salah at 4th, and I've had him, and this one's not even when the 30-man shot list came out. I had Salah 4th the minute PSG knocked them out. Not because that was the one thing that killed him, but from then on, I said this guy can't be in the top 3. They won't put him in the top 3. Salah will be 4th. He's at 4th. I fully agree with it. Where it comes to be stupid now is where I think he should have been 5th, so that Rafinha is above him, because Rafinha is Salah with more trophies. So he scored like what 2-3 more goals than him. I think he had less assists. You can check that. And then Salah had 1 trophy. And as much as we want to say, that's why I talk about PR. He had 1 trophy, but apart from the Champions League, that's the trophy, the Premier League, the most hyped trophy in Europe, in the world, bro. Salah dropped a stinker in the first leg against PSG in the round of 16, and dropped a stinker in the second leg against PSG in the round of 16. And we talked about him dropping stinkers and said he killed his chances, but he had another chance in the FA Cup against Newcastle. And what happened? Isak got the aura of the night. They lost the final. What did Salah drop? I think I remember checking my flash score. Salah dropped like it should have been a 6.8 in a final. When that happened, I said, bro, you're just not going to win. Like, let's be honest, you just don't deserve it. Let's be honest. If you want to say this guy should have been in the top 3, you can make all that. You can yap all you want, but this guy shouldn't have been in the top 3. 4 is perfect for me this season. It's unfortunate, but how I see it is, if I'm Salah, I wouldn't even be that, like, too upset with me being 4th when I see the people being 3rd were Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Dembele, because Lamine Yamal is a teenage sensation. What he was doing is insane. I wasn't doing that at my age. This guy's insane. Plus, he has the trophies over me. He has the trophies over him. And on the field, let's be honest, Salah was kind of coasting by on those stats. Let's be honest. He was kind of coasting by on those stats, as much as people want to hype him. He was having, like, not the greatest of games, but then having a goal and assist, or 2 goals and assists. And then he also had some great games. Yamal wasn't that much of a stat pattern this last season because he didn't have the most stats. But that's expected when you're like 17. You know, of course, you're not gonna be scoring like 60 goals a season. But then, on performance-wise, he was better. He was a better right winger. He's just a better right winger than Mo Salah, and it's true. Let's accept it. So now you have a situation where he's higher than Rafinha. I don't know how in the heck you're gonna explain that, man. So do as you please, France football. This guy was 3rd. Vitinha was 3rd. I gave you my thoughts on that when I talked about Jean Neves. I had Vitinha at 6th, bro. I'll be honest, I had Vitinha at 6th, Pedri at 7th. Not because I think Pedri's a better midfielder than Vitinha, but I feel like Vitinha was always going to end higher than Pedri because that trophy record this season, winning is a big thing. People want to act like it's not, but winning where you had performances is a very big thing. And this guy having a sextuple to his name is insane. He had 6 trophies. He won everything apart from the Club World Cup that was handed to him. And mind you, PSG didn't lose the Club World Cup by big knockout in the round of 16. They lost the Club World Cup in the final. So he reached the final of every tournament he played in. Won 3 finals because he won the Champions League final. He won the Super Coupe de France final. Won the Nations League final. Oh, and also that Liga Campeones is their version of Supercopa de España and Carabao. So he won 4 finals, won 4 trophies in the final, won the league. Oh, 5 actually. Oh, plus the what you call this Super Cup, UEFA Super Cup. This guy won like 5 finals, bro. No, that's crazy. You just have to do it. You just have to give him his props. But being 3rd, man, you just can't tell me he's above Rafinha, man. It's genuinely, you can't tell me that. Man, I have no problems. I have no problems with him being in the top 10. I have no problems with him even being in the top 5. If you want to say he was better than Mbappe, you could say it because it's true. Maybe even because winning 6 trophies is not a simple thing, guys. But you cannot tell me that this guy, his trophies, because when you say that his trophies and his career was so much better than what Rafinha did. Rafinha had 3 less trophies, which is fair, but the performances he had, you cannot. You cannot. You cannot say that this guy and Salah were better than Rafinha. It just cannot be. I'm sorry. I'm not taking it. Number two, of course, Mr. Lamine Yamal. Now that this is finished, I saw the moment. If you guys didn't watch it, I would encourage you to go watch the Ballon d'Or ceremony. Because just before they announced Dembele, there was that period when the fans in the stadium, the people in the arena started chanting Dembele's name, and Yamal had this smile of, oh, well, I guess I know it now. It's like he realized, like, you know what, he lost the fans' vote, like he lost the journalists' vote, because genuinely, man, now it's finished. Now that he's certifyingly not won it, I can be honest. When he was in the running, I had to not talk good about him because I would have helped his chances. But let's be honest, guys. This guy's a freak of nature, bro. I want you guys to go search up the list they posted of when they were asking everybody who attended the event who they think should win the Ballon d'Or. The number of players, and these were not journalists, these were football players, legends, people who've watched the game, been in the game, played the game. Even the guy who gave Dembele the Ballon d'Or, Ronaldinho, said, for me, Yamal has been crazy. Lamine Yamal had people's names in his mouth the whole year, bro. And then in the off season, bro, that Nations League, bro had the max or against PSG, against France, bro. That drone spot where he sits and does the Ronaldo was just like, I mean, come on, man. How can you not see it's me, bro? This guy had max or. I understand people who said that this guy should be above Rafinha, but where I said Rafinha should be above is I know on par, par for par playing on the field, Yamal is better, but if they're playing for the same team, they've won the same amount of trophies, stats have to be a big factor. I don't think his performances can be so much better than the stats that Rafinha was dropping. So that's why I had him there. But him being second, I have no problem. I always said that these three were interchangeable. If Yamal won it and then Dembele was second, Rafinha was third, I had no problem. If Rafinha won it, Dembele was second, Yamal was third, I would have had no problem. And if Yamal won it, Rafinha was second, and Dembele was third, I would have had no problem at the end of the day because they all did crazy, crazy seasons. So for Lamine Yamal, bro. But now, genuinely, I hate that this happened because there's a new thing that has come up in this guy's lore. Like, every time he does something big, it affects me because now, can all of you, just shut up? Like, I'm genuinely sorry. Y'all guys might be loving Estevao, who's joined Chelsea. Madrid fans, y'all might still be loving Endrick. Some of y'all might still be loving Doué, but let's be honest, bro. Two-time Copa winner. I think he's the first two-time winner of this trophy. Two-time Copa winner. He's probably going to win it next season. He's probably going to win it the season after that. He's going to have 4. This guy going from being 7th last season's Ballon d'Or, to being 2nd at the age of 18 years old. A season which he started, I think, at the age of 17 years old. Man, stop talking about people's names. I think by age, he's in the class of the Doués and Endricks and the what. But by football, this guy is in a class of his own, competing in the class with these Mbappes and these Dembele's and Rafinha's, bro. He's nowhere near any youngster right now. It's a miles leap, The only one maybe you can compare for me, this is even an underrated take, is Kubarsi, because Kubarsi defensively is a step above the people in his class. But Lamine Yamal, man. Lamine Yamal is amazing, bro. I just have to be honest. Sometimes you just have to be honest, bro. The work he's done last season. For this guy to be 18 years old and be 2nd. This guy is 18 years old and has finished in a Ballon d'Or ranking higher than some people who've had 15-year-long careers have ever had. He's already had it at 18. And then the saying, it's only up from here. It could even only be down because winning it is the only thing that's up from here. So this guy, genuinely now, I start to believe that those people who say that this guy will go on to win 2, 3, 4 Ballon d'Ors in his life, because starting at 18 and being 2nd is insane. Him being that close where it was almost like a Champions League away from being the Ballon d'Or, because clearly from what I've seen they've done to Rafinha, I'm starting to think that even if Barcelona won the Champions League, they would have given it to Yamal. I have no problems. I had him at 3rd in my list because Rafinha was my 2nd. But of course, this was the penultimate position, because now we go to the number 1, the winner, your champion, the Ballon d'Or 2025, Ousmane Dembele. That is your Ballon d'Or winner of 2025. He is the 69th champion. Oh, wait, no, not 69th champion, because Messi and Ronaldo have 8. He is the winner of the 69th edition of the men's Ballon d'Or. Man, what can I say, man? I've talked a lot about this. I talk about this every time I talk about why I thought he should have won it, man. This guy, the work he's put in, insane. The performances he's had, crazy. Fair play. It was his individual performances and team performances. It was his and PSG's because they won 5 trophies. he didn't have like Salah, Rafinha stats, but I think he actually outscored. And this is one of the things I'll talk about, which hurt Rafinha's chances because of the Club World Cup and against Madrid and Bayern. This guy ended up having more goals than Rafinha by the time of the voting like closing. So the stats he had were crazy. The performances he had is crazy. The season he had was amazing actually. And the trophies, they speak for themselves. He won 5 trophies. He won 2 in Europe. He won 4. He won 2 in Europe, 3 in France. This guy, man, team player. Man, what more can I say about Dembele, bro? He was amazing this season. He was beautiful to watch. I was actually interested in watching him because this is someone who I actually loved, even when he was at Barcelona, because he's always been like, I always said it. I always said that I see it like Dembele is on like level with Mbappe, and I called this and this was before he joined Real Madrid, so I was actually being honest about Mbappe. Not saying I said that this guy for me is on level with Mbappe. He just doesn't have the I don't know if I used to call it motivation or the drive or passion to be as great as Mbappe. But then this season he showed that when this guy's in his bag, he's almost as good, if not even better. This is like a hot topic now that we're gonna debate, especially because this is actually gonna help that debate be like heavily favoring now on Dembele's side, because now we gotta have that tough conversation that I clocked, and I realized it just when I saw him with the trophy. I said, "Oh my God, now what's honestly keeping Mbappe better than Dembele?" This guy joined when Mbappe was leaving. He was just supposed to be like that in-place replacement. No one really thought that this guy was gonna carry hard, and then he wins the Champions League before Mbappe and wins the Ballon d'Or before Mbappe, which is insane. Can you say he's now France's number 1 man? I still don't think so. I think it'll always be Mbappe in this era because they just love this guy, bro. Won them the World Cup at 18 years old. But genuinely, congrats, Dembele, man. Well deserved. I told you. Even if it was Yamal, even if it was Rafinha, I don't know about Mo Salah. Maybe even him. I genuinely don't know about like Cole Palmer, but but yeah, as I said, there's no one I think who wins the Ballon d'Or and it's not deserved, and this was deserved, and congratulations to him, bro. Man, I saw him crying, bro, and I realized like what it means to this guy for him to be a Ballon d'Or winner in his life is insane. Because I think him in 2020 couldn't even now start to believe that this was a reality that could have happened, man. So congrats to him. Yamal actually showed him a lot of love. Rafinha showed him a lot of love. It was the respect, because it was like, I didn't get to win it, but at least, this guy still won it and he worked hard for it, bro. So we'll see what he can do next season. But that was your 30 men's Ballon d'Or. Of course, I had Dembele at first, so it's the mashed one. Just to review it, let's do a quick rundown. I'll be quick because I want the episode to end. I want to wrap this up. Their ranking was Dembele, Yamal, Vitinha, Salah, Rafinha, Hakimi, Mbappe, Palmer, Donnarumma, Pedri, Kvaratskhelia, Kane, Doué, flipping, who the heck was 15th? Oh, Gyökeres. Then we had Vinicius Jr., Lewandowski, McTominay, João Neves, Lautaro Martinez, Girassi, McAllister, Bellingham at 24, Fabian Ruiz, Dumfries, Haaland, Declan Rice, Virgil van Dijk, Florian Wirtz, and last, Michael Olise. And my predictive one was Dembele, Rafinha, Yamal, Salah, Mbappe, Vitinha, Pedri, Harry Kane, Nuno Mendes, Donnarumma at 10, 11 Hakimi, 12 João Neves, Van Dijk, McAllister, Kvaratskhelia, Michael Olise at 16th, Doué at 17th, Palmer at 18th, Girassi at 19th, 20th was Lewandowski, 21 was Fabian Ruiz, 22 was Scott McTominay, 23 was Gyökeres, 24 was Jude Bellingham, 25 was Denzel Dumfries, 26 was Lautaro Martinez, 27th was Declan Rice, 28th was Haaland, 29th was Vinicius Jr., and 30th for me was Florian Wirtz. So you guys can see, comment down below what you guys' lists were. I want to see what you guys' lists were in the comments so that I can match them up with mine and see if maybe I'm the one who's also just as crazy as France football for some of the things they've done. Putting Pedri at 11th and Cole Palmer at 8th. But anyway, guys, that was the Ballon d'Or 2025 ranking. We'll see you guys next year for the next Ballon d'Or when I do another Ballon d'Or video like this. But for the new season, I'll be making an episode coming soon about Vinicius Jr. and Xavi Alonso's situation going on right now. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. Thank you guys for watching this episode on YouTube. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you like no matter what you're watching or listening on. Make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast. Share it with a friend because it helps us grow. This was Real Talk, Ballon d'Or ranking.